Dear friends, 100 years ago, when Scarlowy and Rheneas first arrived on their railway, they were young and silly. Scarlowy was sulky and bousy. He and Rheneas quarrelled, but they learned sense, and the owner has just given them a lovely 100th birthday. Tallylin and Dolcorv at Tallinn are 100 too. How about going to wish them many happy returns? The author.
Scarlowy made a face. Not again, Nancy, please. Just a tinsy polish, she coaxed. You must look nice for your 100th birthday. I am nice, you're just a fusspot. And you're just a horrid old crosspatch. Nancy polished him vigorously. Scarlowy smiled. Nancy, he said, I really was a crosspatch once. Shall I tell you? Yes, please. Well, calm down. I can't tell it properly while you're fussing up there. Just 5 more minutes then, no longer. Nancy sat down and the old engine began. Tallylin, Dolkov, Rheneas and I were built together in England. Who? Asked Nancy. Are Tallylin and Dolkov? Tallylin is my twin. Dolkov is Rheneas's. Their railway is at Tallinn in Wales and they're 100 too. They were green and we were red. Tallylin and I had small wheels then and no cab. We thought we were wonderful and talked about how splendid we looked pulling coaches. What about trucks? Asked Nancy. Scarlowy chuckled. We had no use for them, he said. I was finished first and sent away on a ship. I didn't like that. It wobbled dreadfully. At the port, the big railway kept me waiting. They had no cranes to lift me out. It wasn't the Fat Controller's railway then. He would have managed it much better. What did they do? Asked Nancy. They used the ship's derricks. They nearly turned me upside down, said Scarlowy indignantly, and left me hanging while they arranged the truck. You must have looked funny, gurgled Nancy. Yes, I felt it too. I got crosser and crosser. They fastened me to the truck at last, and an engine took me away. His name was Neil. He was ugly but kind, and we were soon friends. So you're bound for the wee railway, he said. You must put some order into those trucks. The havers they made they hardly believe. I didn't like the sound of that, but I was too tired to say anything. Plenty of people were waiting when we got there, but they weren't used to engines. And it was dark before I was on my rails. Then they left me, lonely and unhappy, and wishing Rheneas would come. Trucks were everywhere next morning. Suddenly, with a rattle and a roar, a train of loaded ones came in. I was surprised. There's no engine, I said. Workman laughed. They've come down by gravity, he said. The empty ones need pulling up, though. That's why you've come. But can't they go up by whatever it was you said? Gravity only brings things down. We need horses or engines like you to pull them up. What? Have I to pull trucks? Of course. I won't. I want coaches. He just laughed and walked away. Soon, Mr. Mac, the manager, arrived with some men. He showed them my parts from a book. We're going to steam you up, Scarlowy, he said. Can I pull coaches, sir? No, certainly not. I gave him such a look. They didn't understand engines, so it was easy. My fire wouldn't burn and I made no steam. I just blew smoke at them. They called me bad names, but I didn't care. Next day they try again, and the next, and the next. I just gave them my look and wouldn't do a thing. At last the manager said, "Very well, be a crosspatch, but we're not going to look at your sulky face all day. We'll cover you up and leave you until you're a better engine." "They did too," chuckled Scarlowy. "They fetched a big tarpaulin and covered me right up. I didn't like that at all." "I think it served you right," said Nancy sturdily. "Never mind her, Scarlowy. Please tell us what happened next." Nancy turned in surprise. A group of people had quietly come up to listen while Scarlowy was telling her his story. "I was lonely and miserable," Scarlowy continued, "until at last the manager came. I hope now that you're a better engine." "Yes, sir, please, sir, because I've asked Mr. Bobby to come and look after you." Mr. Bobby had helped to build me in England. I liked him, so we soon had steam up.
"Come on, Scarlowy,"
he said.
"we must help the workmen finish the line before the inspector comes."
I didn't mind pulling trucks with Mr. Bobby. And we worked so hard that by the time Renaeus arrived, the line was ready. Renaeus never got so excited and bouncy as I did. He worked without hurry or fuss. Trucks often played tricks on me to make me cross. But they soon found that teasing Renaeus was a mistake. He was shunting one day when I came alongside. I was excited. "I'm pulling the director's train," I said, "and taking the inspector tomorrow. Think of that." Renaeus pounded. "You mind your bucks and bounces then, Scarlowy," he said at last. "The directors won't like them." "Pooh," I snorted, and bounced away to fetch the coaches. "Peep, peep," I whistled. "Hello, girls."
"Who is it?"
Agnes's deep voice echoed from the back of the shed.
"It's an engine,"
whispered Beatrice, the guard's van.
"He's come to take us out." "Beware of strange engines,"
warned Agnes.
"We must be on our guard." "Our guard has just gone,"
giggled Beatrice. Jemima and Ruth, the other coaches, sighed with relief. I pulled them all happily to the station. Agnes, still suspicious, kept muttering,
"Be on your guard, be on your guard."
But I was too excited to listen. It might have been better if I had. I was sizzling with excitement as I ran around and backed down on Agnes. It's fun, I chortled.
"You may look harmless,"
she whispered,
"but we'll watch you, we'll watch you."
She took me quite aback. But even Agnes couldn't complain about our upward journey. We stopped at each station and the directors got out to admire the arrangements. I'd forgotten about Agnes, and the manager, smiling, joined us for the journey home. "It looks so easy, Mr. Bobby," he said. "Can I drive him, please?" We were running nicely. First rate, I sizzled happily, gaining speed, and all-knowing, I began to bounce. The manager, alarmed, closed my regulator too quickly and too much. Agnes's buffers crashed.
He's playing tricks. Bump him, girls, bump him.
They surged against me, urging me on. I bounced and lurched. I couldn't help it. The manager lost his footing, grabbed wildly for a handhold and disappeared. Peep, peep, peep! Brakes, God, please! Mr. Bobby seized my controls, stopped the train and looked back. 2 legs waved wildly from a bush. The manager was unhurt but very cross. I'll not ride that bucking bonko again, he said. He sat in Beatrice for the rest of the journey. The directors complained that they had been badly shaken. They said it was my fault. Renaeus will take the inspector tomorrow, they ordered. You will stay out of sight in the shed. But later that evening, the manager came. I'm sorry, sir. I did try to be good. It wasn't your fault, Scarlowy. I'm sorry I was cross. We must do what the directors say now, but I'll make it up to you later. The inspector was pleased with Renaeus. You've done very well, he said kindly, for a new engine. He told the directors about some improvements which were needed, but, he went on the whole your arrangements are good. He came to see me and the directors told him what they thought had happened. I think, gentlemen, he said, that you are mistaken. Scarlowy should prove to be a useful engine, but he needs another pair of wheels. Take my advice and have them fitted. Then you will see the difference. Good day. The manager was as good as his word, Scarlowy continued. I came home from the works with 6 wheels and a cab. A cab is the latest thing for engines, he told me. I hope it will cheer you up after your disappointment. Renaeus chuckled. It cheered him up too much, and those silly coaches made him worse.
Such a handsome engine.
They chittered.
6 wheels and a cab. So distinguished, my dears. It's a pleasure to see him.
He soon got too big for his wheels. Scarlowy smiled ruefully. I did too, he said. Go on, Renaeus. He boasted about his cab until I was tired, said Renaeus. You should get one like me and be up to date, he would say. No, thank you. You look like a snail with that house on your back. You don't go much fast either. Slow am I, let me tell you. Who was late 3 times last week? Oh, it's no use talking. You're just an old stick in the mud. He called me more names and we quarrelled. We ended up back to back, not speaking. It went on for days and days. One dark Monday morning, Scarlowy had to take the workman's train to the quarry. It had rained for 3 days. You always pick on me for wet days, he complained.
You,
Said Mr. Bobby.
have got a cab to keep us dry. Come on.
Scarlowy slipped and snorted on the damp rails. He began to wonder if cabs were worth it. An hour later, I was warming up when Scarlowy's guard came coasting down in an empty truck. He stopped by our shed. There's a landslide beyond the tunnel, he said. Scarlowy's runned into it. He's stuck. Show a wheel, Renaeus. Look lively. I'm sorry, Mr. Peter, sir, but that Scarlowy's too swanky. He says I'm a stick in the mud. He can jolly well stick in the mud himself. It serves him right. But, went on my driver, there's poor Mr. Bobby and the quarrymen. Does it serve them right too? The guard says the mud's like treacle. Oh dear, I said, that will never do. We must save them before they get sucked in. And off we puffed with 2 trucks and some workmen. Things weren't too bad after all. The men had partly cleared the line and had levelled Skarloey back. He was hissing and grumbling dreadfully, but we didn't listen to him. We cleared the rest of the line, and I pushed Skarloey out of the way for taking the quarrymen to work. Mr. Bobby cleaned and oiled his wheels and motion, so when I returned with the coaches, I could help him back to the shed. I'm sorry I was swanky, he said at last. Thank you for helping me. Not at all, I said, but I was still cross. Then Skarloey began to laugh. I'm the stick in the mud after all, he gurgled helplessly. Not you. I laughed too. I couldn't help it. He looked so funny. We were laughing when the cleaners came. We were still laughing when they left. Poor engines, they said, tapping their foreheads. We weren't mad. We've learned sense, and we've been firm friends ever since. Thank you, Skarloey and Reneus, said the listeners. Now you've told us about the old days, we can give you both a splendid birthday next week.
But I keep telling you,
said Dork.
there are no dukes. They were fine and stately, but they've all been scrapped.
Peter Sam goggled in horror.
This is dreadful,
he wailed.
The Fat Controller said the owner, said the Duke, said he was coming to our Centenary to open our extension round the lake, and now he's scrapped, and Skarloey and Renese's birthday will be spoiled. Oh dear, oh dear.
He bustled away with his empty coaches to tell his bad news. I think, said Skarloey, that Duck was pulling your wheels.
No, Skarloey, he was quite serious.
He always jokes like that, chuckled Skarloey. No one agreed, and they argued so loudly that the Fat Controller came to stop their noise. They told him about Doug, but he paid no attention. I've no time for this nonsense now, he snapped. There's a change in tomorrow's work. Skarloey, you will meet the Duke at 11 instead of 10:30. And he hurried away. If there is a Duke, said Duncan, but they were all too tired to argue anymore. They spent a gloomy night. But they cheered up next morning when the cleaners greeted the birthday engines with an all-metal band. Drivers and firemen joined in, and even the Fin Controller banged a metal plate as loudly as anyone. The engines punched the music with their whistles. The Fat Controller laughed and held his ears. Presently, he looked at his watch. That's enough, he ordered. So Rusty, Sir Handel and Duncan went at once to find their coaches. Visitors crowded the big station. They wanted to go to places along the line to watch the celebrations. Peter, Sam and Reneus had perfectly practiced their parts. Passengers in Agnes, Lucy, Jemima and Beatrice all wore clothes of 1865. Reneus had to pull them behind Peter Sam's television train, not too close and not too far away so that the cameramen could take their pictures. Visitors waved as they went by, and at last they reached the special sidings near the extension where they settled down to wait.
Listen,
said Peter Sam at last.
here's Scarlowy. They're cheering him.
Good, answered Renaeus. Perhaps that will make up for his disappointment over the Duke.
Scarlowy wasn't disappointed at all. I've brought the Duke. I've brought the Duke. I've brought the Duke, he puffed triumphantly, came to a stand between the two trains. A distinguished-looking man stepped out, climbed to Scarlowy's footplate, and drove him on the new line around the lake and back again. Then, standing on Scarlowy's front buffer beam, he said, "Ladies and gentlemen and engines, I have pleasure to declaring that your lovely lakeside loop line now open." Peter Sam could bear it no longer.
Excuse me, Sir Duke.
He burst out.
Are you real?
There was a shocked silence. The Duke smiled. "Scarlowy says you've been listening to Duck," he answered. "Duck thinks Dukes were Great Western engines, but Dukes are really people, and I'm happy to assure you, Peter Sam, I am a real-life Duke."
I'll give Duck Dukes,
muttered Peter Sam, but he was sternly hushed. The Duke turned to the Fin Controller and the Fat Controller. "I congratulate you, sirs, on your remarkable railway. It must be a record indeed to have 2 locomotives in regular service, and both 100 years old. Long life then, and good runnings to Scarlowy and Renaeus, your famous old engines." The cheering and clapping died away. "Speech!" shouted someone, and the cry was taken up. "Go on, Renaeus," whispered the Fin Controller. So rather nervously, the old engine began. "Thank you, your grace, and everyone for your kind wishes. You've given us both a lovely 100th birthday, but your grace, Scarlowy and I aren't the only record engines. We've got twin brothers. Tally, Lynn and Dorcorth were built at the same time as us, so they are 100 too, and they're still at work. Their railway's at Talon in Wales. Please go see them, your grace, and everyone, and wish them many happy returns from Scarlowy and Renaeus, their little old twins."